Second trimester D&E abortions perform between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks, but she's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times, sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
I'm pro-choice, and I want to share why. My reasoning is, let's say I have a homeless adult kid who knocks on my door in a blizzard. If I don't let him in, he will die of the cold. I might choose to let him in, but the law does not force me to let him in. You've been saying that no one is legally required to give others their housing or support, even if it means saving their life. So here's my question. If we agree that people can't be legally forced to use their homes to save someone, why should women be legally forced to use their bodies to sustain a fetus, especially in the first trimester when it can't survive on its own?
It's a good faith question. So taking rape outside of my answer, because rape would invalidate what I'm about to say, how about 99% of the cases are non-rape abortions, which is the analogy actually falls apart, or the metaphor, because you actually do invite the homeless person into your home. That's what happens when you have sex. You invite the baby into your uterus. So you could be pro-choice of whether or not you're going to have sex.
It's not always a choice. Sometimes the condom can break.
Oh, no, you don't have to have sex. That's the point. Having sex is not a human need. Eating and showering is, but you can wait until you're married. You actually don't have to have sex.
Here's my counterpoint to that, though. If I'm driving a car, I'm taking the chance that there could be a kid if there's like a bike lane right next to me. And this actually happened recently close to my home, where there's someone on a Lime scooter on like a bike lane right next to me. He fell off his Lime scooter and he got hit by a car and the kid died. That's really sad. It was a life that ended. But I didn't have to go to drive. I didn't have to drive my car. The person didn't have to drive in the car who hit the kid, but he took the risk. In the end, the law still doesn't punish the driver because it wasn't his fault. He did everything that he possibly could, and he didn't have to drive.
You're equating having sex with driving, just to be clear.
My analogy is that it's my choice to drive a car or not, but I'm still taking the risk. But if someone...
Well, hold on, but if you're driving a car and you do run somebody over, you could be susceptible to manslaughter laws.
I could be susceptible to that, but if it's not my fault, then I don't get a manslaughter law. And what happened in this case is that they didn't get a manslaughter law.
Then let's go further.
Legally,
at what point is something your fault?
It's very circumstantial.
No, but like what is the intent threshold when something is your fault?
If you intentionally try to cause an action, then it's your fault. But
I agree.
for this
like
driver, they did not intentionally do it.
So
There's
like
nothing
an
they
abortion,
could have done.
hold on, like an abortion, you intentionally cause a result.
I'm intentionally causing an abortion.
Yeah, you're intentionally causing an
to
abortion, so with intent standard, you are eliminating a human life.
In the end, it's still the woman's choice to do what she wants with their home. I can do whatever I want with my home. If I want to kick a homeless person out of my home, even if I know that he's going to die in the street, I'm allowed to kick that homeless person out of my house, even though that means he'll die. And that's really sad that a human life will die. I agree with there's a human in the body. I agree with that. The person will still die. It's still my choice. It's still legally my choice to keep the person out of home.
Let's play this out. Let's just
okay.
Because your analogy sounds rational, but it's not. Can a mother of a 1-year-old kick her baby out of her house?
No.
Well,
she can set it up for adoption.
No, but why can't she just leave it on the side of the street? Isn't that a child abandonment law?
There's a gray area between setting someone to go up to an adoption center, which is a really easy thing to do, to just drop them off at a fire station, which you're allowed to set up someone for adoption.
No, but hold on. You said that you do not have to give care to someone who knocks on your door. That's your whole contention.
Legally correct. You don't.
Right. So, but if you have a 1-year-old baby,
you can either give them care or you can put them up for adoption. You have one of two choices.
That's my stance when it comes to the baby in the womb. You
and
can
the baby
give them
in the womb
care,
is
or
different.
how is it different? How is it a different?
You're this physically taking over the woman's womb. It causes physical, emotional, mental damage to the woman when it's in the womb.
But how is that?
There's legal risks.
How does that at all diminish or increase the value of the human life?
The human life's still important. I'm not saying that abortion is not tragic. But what I am saying is that the woman's right to choose what she does with her own body is also important. The right to self-autonomy is also important.
But doesn't the baby also have a right to self-autonomy?
I agree, and the person who's homeless and will die if I don't let him in the house also has the right to self-autonomy, but he doesn't have the right to self-autonomy if it means that he's infringing on my own rights.
Your homeless example, again, further falls apart. If they knock on a hospital or a police station or a fire station, they are welcomed in. So there are places for homeless people to be able to get care. There's no place for an unborn child to get care if they walk into an abortion clinic.
That's a societal obligation, a government obligation, not an individual private obligation.
No, I agree. That's why abortion. An individual
person's body is their own private one.
I agree. That's why abortion should be illegal, because we have a societal obligation to protect every life.
It's a private person's womb. It's a private person's house. They're both private property belong to the individual person.
So you think the womb is private,
it is the woman's womb.
Got it. But is it her DNA that's forming?
Isaiah 5:20 says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." Woe to them. This verse is a warning. It speaks to people who twist the truth. People who twist the truth, who try to make what is wrong seem right. They try to make what is wrong seem right, and what is right seem wrong and evil. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's about those who try to confuse people by switching good and bad, light and darkness, truth and lies. They take what is harmful and try to make it look harmless. They try to make it look harmless, ladies and gentlemen. Harmless. And at the same time, they will mock, they will reject what is true, what is good, what is pure, and what is godly. That's what they do. You shall know them by their fruits. You shall know them by their fruits. And God is warning that there will be consequences for people who deliberately deceive others and reject His truth.
Half of her DNA, and it doesn't matter. If it's a separate person with their own unique DNA.
If it's not your DNA, why is it your choice?
Because it's living in my own house. If it's a random homeless person, I can still kick him out, even if it means that he will die.
Yeah,
It is my choice to do that.
It's such an incredibly morally perverse argument to make.
Moral or not, legally does not revolve around your morals.
Well, of course it does. I mean, laws are a reflection of morality. That's why we have murder laws, right? That's why we say you can't steal. Every law is a reflection of some moral truth.
For stealing, it doesn't directly affect you. If I try to murder someone...
Of course stealing affects me. Of course it does.
You're stealing to directly affect someone else. You're not stealing because you have to steal. You're doing it because you're choosing to actively steal. For a baby going into a person's womb, the mom's not killing the baby because she wants to kill the baby. She's killing the baby because it's taking her own organs and causing the physical stress and safety of her own body.
I need to get back to one contention, though. Do you believe generally that people should take responsibility for their own actions?
Yes.
Okay. So then,
but if it's not their fault, then no.
Hold on, but by fault, they made a decision to have sex 99.9% of the time. By doing
99% is rape, and even still, abortion laws. But 99% is the opposite. Is the opposite.
99% of the time, it's a form of birth control. So essentially, you would agree that it being a form of birth control, basically, it's a oopsie, I'm just going to eliminate a human life because I have autonomy of my own body.
You're willingly taking the risk of that birth control potentially failing, but you're also doing that when you're driving a car. If I go to a mechanic and he checks at my brakes, if he checks that my brakes are okay.
That's such a
I'm
morally
still taking
contorted
the
analogy.
risk that my car can still work. I agree with the analogy.
No, in no way is that even close to the same.
You're taking the risk in both chances, and both can kill a person.
Wait.
So never drive?
Wait, you're saying that having sex could potentially result in the death of a person?
You have the chance of getting pregnant, and if you don't want to get
Yes,
pregnant...
and then you have an obligation to allow that life to grow. Because universal human equality applies to all human beings, regardless of how small they are or where they are. Just because you're within a womb. And to play out that analogy further, you say that, well, it's drawing from the mom's nutrients and it's changing her organs.
Yeah.
Just so we are clear, the mom's nutrients continue when the baby's 6 months old. You ever heard of breastfeeding? The mom's organs continue to change after birth.
Yeah.
Can she then eliminate the 6-month-old saying, I don't want to feed that 6-month-old?
You can put it up for adoption, yes.
Well, no, why can't she murder it?
Because at that point, she has a choice to save the baby. If you can save the baby, you can. And I'm saying a viability.
You could save the baby at 23 weeks.
I agree with you. I'm saying first trimester when the baby's not viable.
Okay,
outside of
so
the
now
womb.
we're
That's my
getting
argument.
somewhere.
And I said that at the beginning of my open statement too.
But the viability standard is, very questionable. When does human development begin?
At conception. I agree it's a human person inside you, but the problem is that you're taking the woman's own part. And so, look, if the baby can come out of the woman and still be alive, then I agree abortion should not apply. And that should be an individual case of the doctor to determine that. But if it's taking directly from the woman and the baby has to die in order for the baby to come out,
let me just conclude in this. Every baby will take from something else necessarily for the first 3 years. A baby will not hunt and gather, and a baby can't go get a job.
I agree.
So by definition, every baby, whether it's 6 months in the womb or 6 months outside of the womb, is dependent on an exterior force. So that moral threshold of viability actually does not continue out. It'd be one thing if a baby is born, all of a sudden the baby says, okay, let's get to work and let's, go, become a janitor. A child is actually highly dependent and only viable in the sense that it can breathe and clean its bladder. However, there are millions of baby born in NICU units across the country, neonatal intensive care units, that have all sorts of machines and contraptions that do and simulate the work of the gestational process. So I can understand your argument. I just think it's incredibly morally troubling to say that a woman has so much autonomy over her own body, therefore you are allowed to then eliminate, murder, or kill if it makes your life a little bit difficult.
We'll agree to disagree. There's one more point I want to make quickly too, is that you compare abortion to the Holocaust a lot. Can you?
It's actually worse than the Holocaust.
Explain why.
55 million babies have been killed since.
Compared to how many in the Holocaust?
6 million. Yeah.
Okay, so would you say it's by ratio 55 to 6 times?
No,
worse?
there's an evil that was in the Holocaust that is not quite manifested in the abortion industry.
I agree.
Which was the intentional extermination of a specific type of people.
I agree.
Now, part of the abortion industry also has a lot of anti-black eugenics philosophy as the basis from Margaret Sanger. But I would say there was this very specific, unique evil in the Holocaust that we've not seen replicated in many other times, which is that we want to eliminate a certain time of people. But by scale, it is far worse.
That's good. I've heard in a lot of debates you've said that the Holocaust is 8 times less as important as abortion because there's 8 times less people have been murdered.
Unique.
But my point is that they're unique circumstances.
They are unique.
These days, it seems like many people treat pregnancy as if it's a disease. As if it's a disease, something that just happens to them by accident with no responsibility at all involved. Can you imagine? But ladies and gentlemen, let us be honest. Pregnancy isn't something you catch like a cold. No, it's a natural result of a choice. It's a natural result of a choice, of an action. Yet instead of owning that choice, that action, many will try to shift the blame, avoid the consequences, and act shocked when reality sets in. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Ladies and gentlemen, we need accountability. We need accountability, folks. Yeah, we need to stop pretending that actions don't have outcomes. No. Sex is a powerful tool and a life-creating act. And guess what? it comes with responsibilities. It comes with responsibilities. When we don't play that and treat it casually, we also don't play the value of life. We don't play the value of life and the seriousness of the decisions that we make. I honestly think that Charlie is stepping into the role that was never meant to be his. Honestly. Yeah. Because he's doing the work that parents should be doing as their children are growing. Yeah. While he speaks the truth and stands for values, too many mothers and fathers, they have rejected their responsibility to raise their children in the way that they should go. You see? Teach their children, guide their children in truth, so that when they grow, they will not depart from those ways. You see? And acts. You see? Yeah. But the goodness of the matter is Charlie is filling the void left by a generation of silence and maybe distracted parents. Yeah. Because clearly these children, these youths, these guys, they learned all this stuff that they know now from somewhere. And the majority of them, they learn from mainstream media. Mainstream media, their cell phones. You see? Yeah. And the level of misinformation that these college students believe is absolutely astounding. It's absolutely astounding because they have been fed half-truths, emotional slogans. Emotional slogans. A lot of propaganda. A lot of propaganda. Because it's not just ignorance, it's actually indoctrination, ladies and gentlemen. It's indoctrination. They confidently speak on subjects they maybe don't really understand. You see? And they will dismiss the truth, usually when it challenges their narrative. They will dismiss the truth. It's a crisis of critical thinking. That's what I'm saying. It's a crisis of critical thinking. And the bad parties is producing a generation that feels informed when they know so little. You see the danger? What I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is simply that our actions have consequences. Our actions, they have consequences, and they will deeply and greatly impact the outcomes of our lives. Every decision we make, no matter how big or small, it sets into motion a series of events that leads to consequences, whether positive or negative. You see? Yeah. And we hold the keys to our future. We hold the keys to our future through the decisions and the choices we make today. Absolutely. Every action has a consequence. Every action has a consequence. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's not going to matter. It will make no difference. It will make no difference. You see? And this isn't just about one child. It's part of a larger issue. It's part of a larger issue. Our educational institutions are shaping the next generation, folks. And if these institutions are misguided and broken, guess what will happen to a whole generation of kids? It'll be terrible. It'll be terrible, and it will show in results, and in our culture, it will show. So something has to be done. We need to take a look at what kids are being taught in schools, and as parents also, be very proactive as far as raising your children is concerned. Be very proactive. Yeah. For the sake of our children and the sake of our society. You see? Yeah. Because a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. He disregards the rest. And this simply reveals how deeply personal bias and selective perceptions shape our understanding of the whole world in general. Yeah. You see? And a lot of the ears of these college students, they're only tuned when they feel like what is being taught aligns with their desires and opinions. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my deepest desire and hope above all else is that they will discover Jesus. They will know more about him. Know more about him, so that they can live fulfilled lives according to his word, according to his scriptures, according to his desires and hopes for all of us and wills. That's my strongest and greatest desire, that they will cast their burdens to him, for he cares. He cares.